Yantif. Anybody who was born in our country was probably most likely taught the Declaration of Independence and probably knows this phrase by heart, that our Creator endowed us with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What exactly is the pursuit of happiness? Much ink has been spilt and much paper used in order to come up with explanations of what is the precise definition of happiness, or what makes us happy. Is there a Jewish definition of happiness? Yes, indeed. There's a whole holiday dedicated to it. What is that holiday? The holiday which is upon us, the holiday of Sukkot, also known as Chag Simchatenu, the holiday of our happiness. So let's delve into Jewish happiness. The holiday of Sukkot is the most joyous and jubilant of all of the Jewish festivals throughout the year. The holiday comprises many mitzvot which are associated with it, but ultimately whose sole purpose is to enhance that wonderful exaltation that we feel on Sukkot. The most famous mitzvah, the one that gives it its name, is perhaps the Sukkah itself, dwelling in the Sukkah for 7 days. In our northern climes, we don't usually see sitting in a cold sukkah with several coats as a cause for joy. But in the land of Israel, they not only eat their meals in the sukkah, they also sleep there, transfer all of their homebound activities into the sukkah. They live there as well. So it's kind of like camping. Camping, that makes a person happy. In addition, we also have the mitzvah of taking the 4 species, the lulav, the etrog, hadassah, arava, beautiful smelling, aromatic fruits of the land of Israel, which are just a joy to go near. And we pick them up and we shake them in the 4 cardinal directions, as well as up and down. According to Ashkenazi practice, this is done by rotating the lulav and etrog in a clockwise direction around the person himself who's doing it, and finally up and down. The shaking of the lulav and etrog is further enhanced with the recital of the whole Hallel, and that is the ultimate fulfillment of that mitzvah. Finally, during temple times, when most of the Jewish people lived in the land of Israel, there was an additional mitzvah related not only to Sukkot, but the other festivals, but during Sukkot it was further enhanced. There was a mitzvah to travel to Jerusalem, climb the heights of the Temple Mount by foot, literally in order to be seen, to see and be seen, as it were, by Hashem. This is a pasuk in the Torah. Shalosh pe'amim bashana yera'eh kol zuchurcha et panei Hashem Elokecha b'makom asher yivchar. 3 times a year we are to go to the temple and to be seen by Hashem. It was a special mitzvah then to experience the joy and happiness of the celebrations of the holiday, specifically in the temple. There were many beautiful festivals celebrations such as the drawing of the water ceremony, which involved dancing all night and early in the morning in a solemn ceremony carrying fresh water down the steps leading up to the temple through the courtyard, and then declaring our ancestors' backs were toward the temple and they faced the sun to worship it. But we turn around, and at that moment they would turn and say, our eyes are to God, and to God our eyes. Additionally, and most importantly, every person who visited had an additional mitzvah of bringing a special peace offering called a shalmei simcha, a shlamim, a peace offering of happiness. And it was to be eaten by the people who brought it, not consumed on the flames of the altar, not the meat, but rather by the owners. They would take it back to their hotel and eat it in Jerusalem. In addition, part of the requirements of that sacrifice requires that the meat be consumed within 2 days maximum. So you can imagine if you bring a large lamb or cow, you could bring whatever you wanted, and you had it prepared and dressed so that you could eat it. How are you going to do it in 2 days? There's only one solution. You didn't eat it by yourself, nor did you eat it with your family, even if it was a large one. It's just too much. Rather, you would invite total strangers and beg them, please come, do a mitzvah, and help share in the eating of this meat. The Talmud tells us that people were so busy doing all of these various mitzvot that they barely had a minute to sleep. But getting back to that sacrifice, what's so happy about it? Indeed, the Gemara tells us something unusual. Ein simcha ela bebasar v'yayin. We derive from here that true happiness comes from eating meat and drinking wine. What's that all about? Is that serious? So now we've come to the point where we really need to discuss, what is happiness? What gives us true happiness? Ask the average person, what would make you happy? A trip to the Bahamas, perhaps, a nice cruise, living in a large mansion with several servants and luxury cars. But if we really ask the person, he knows those are really just pipe dreams. And those dreams, once achieved, don't actually give us lasting happiness at all. Money can't buy you love or anything else that would be a necessary ingredient to happiness, such as self-fulfillment, a sense of accomplishment, or just the satisfaction of breathing and living. So how do we achieve true happiness? Right now, we're in a terrible pandemic. Most of us are quarantining these past couple of months. And if there's one thing we've learned really and starkly, is that maybe we don't know what happiness is, but we know the exact opposite of happiness. It's loneliness. And we even know of cases that people are willing to put their very lives, not to mention the lives of their loved ones, in actual danger, taking a chance, going to public events, rallies, restaurants, the theater, just so that they can fulfill that need for human contact. So perhaps that's the definition of happiness, just to be with other people. Yes, but it's more than that. It is a well-accepted axiom by all societies that true happiness comes not from mere human contact, but through making an effort to help others, to aid them, assist them in any way that we can, using our God-given talents to do so. All human beings possess needs which cannot be fulfilled alone. All of us must benefit from the advice and guidance of others to help us in those aspects of our lives which are beyond our control. God created all human beings in his image, and just as Hashem feeds the poor, clothes the naked, gives shelter to the homeless, our primary objective is to be similar to Hashem, to do the same. I think it's ironic that most of us are very happy and willing to help, but we have an aversion of accepting help from others. That probably is related to our need to be fiercely independent. We don't want to rely on people to help us. But happiness is a two-way street. When we deny others from helping us, we deny them the opportunity for doing a mitzvah. We deny them a sense of happiness. We all use the phrase lightly when we speak to people, if there's anything I could do to help, just let me know. Because we assume that the other person most likely doesn't want our help. It's just a courtesy. But if that's our philosophy, in the end, we all end up being lonely and friendless. So we must not only help others, as we are exhorted to do very often, but we must also be willing to accept help from others and to seek that out. In temple times, the consumption of a sacrifice was a great mitzvah in and of itself. The owners of the peace offering would invite others to their tables, and when they did that, they not only gave them the opportunity to do the mitzvah of sharing and eating sacrificial meat, but they also used that opportunity to get to know their guests, to find out how they made their livelihoods, what their needs were. Was there anything they could do to help? And maybe you'll be surprised and you may find somebody who can help you. What the Talmud means that real happiness is meat and wine, what it really means is not that the meat and wine makes you happy alone, but rather the human intervention and interaction, the possibility of helping and being helped. That is which ultimately granted all of the participants in the sacred meal that vaunted state of mind of happiness. And if you consider that only 150 years ago, there were no refrigerators, there was no way to preserve meat. So eating meat was not only a family affair, it was a communal affair. It still is in many parts of the world. The Jewish people are unique amongst all the people of the earth in the fact that we truly care about our fellow Jews, wherever they may be, deeply. The Medrash, perhaps a little tongue-in-cheek, compares the people of Israel to a bag of walnuts. Remove a few of them, and all the other walnuts move and feel. When Jews suffer in one part of the world, it is keenly felt by us in the other. Where did this phenomenon come from? I believe it came from the holiday of Sukkot. May Hashem grant us and our families a happy Sukkot holiday, a year which will spell the end of Corona, and a life filled with peace, prosperity, and true fulfillment of happiness.